Hello, hello. This is Dallas Cohen, the Rebound Coach, and you are watching or listening to an episode of the Rebound Coach Live. Y'all, how many of you have had a breakup in your life? I know that I have. I know that most of us of adult age have had at least one, maybe a couple. How many of those breakups have been healthy ones? And how many of them have been ones that you wish were healthy breakups? And how do you know if you had a healthy breakup? Well, today we're going to talk all about how to have a healthy breakup from your trauma. And you might be like, oh man, I thought this was about breakups from exes. Yes, that too. But today is it can be a heavy topic, but it's one that's going to bring a lot of value. So what I recommend is, if you have the opportunity to take notes now, look, if you're driving or supposed to be working, I get it. You can't do all of that right now. You can do it on a replay, but I do recommend that you spend some time focusing on this teaching. It's going to bring a lot of value to you. If you're able to get out pen and paper, crayon, mascara, lipstick, whatever you need to do to take notes, I recommend you do so. You will get a lot of value out of this. And you might be wondering, who are you? How'd you end up on my feed? What exactly is a rebound coach? If it's your first time sharing virtual space with me, I want to say thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being here. If you're listening over on the Clubhouse app, thanks for hanging out. We will do an after chat over there on the app. If you don't know about the Clubhouse room, you're welcome to join us over there. The links are in the description of this Facebook Live. So if you're here on Facebook and you want to join the Clubhouse room, you can do that at the link that's posted in the description here. Or if not, that's fine too. You can hang out right here with me here on Facebook, and the Clubhouse folks will chat after this. So if it's your first time, thank you. Welcome to the Rebound Coach Live. I'm Dallas Cohen, the Rebound Coach. And a rebound coach, I'm a life coach that helps people get unstuck. Specifically, I serve high-achieving women of faith who have lived through betrayal, trauma, or abuse, and who want to reclaim territory in their relationship with themselves. So that is who I serve and what we do. And you might be like, where'd that even come from? What are you talking about? So that came out of my own experience. Y'all, I was married for 10 years to a man who wanted me dead. And that didn't make a lot of sense for somebody like me who was raised in a Christian home. I had two parents. They loved God. They loved each other. They were married for a lifetime. And actually, my dad was my mother's caretaker. So I saw what self-sacrificial love. You know, they gave a beautiful example of marriage. At the same time, I was molested from the time I was 8 to the time I was 16. And that really changes how you see yourself, how your identity, because your identity is forming at those ages. So how I saw myself, how I related to God in a household of faith, and how I related to men. So fast forward, I met the man that I married and eventually divorced. There were definitely red flags. It was not a situation where I didn't think there was going to be trouble. I knew that there would be. As a praying woman, I also believed that God's answer was yes. And because of that, I believed that whatever trouble would come, I'd be able to overcome it. We'd outlast it. As a matter of fact, I had specific hopes around renewing our vows at some point and celebrating the victory of God healing him and healing us and walking together in ministry in new ways. So that was kind of the vision that I had for my marriage. And my tactic and strategy was just to endure and to pray and to fast and to be a good wife and to do everything I could do for God to move. And I just needed to wait for that to happen. And what we got into was a cycle of what I call coping and crisis. It's where you never get to happy, you never get to satisfied, you never even get to good. You're just at this place of like survival. You're tap dancing around the emotions. You're walking on eggshells all the time. You are just getting from day to day. There was a long time I was suicidal and really hopeless because I couldn't um, I couldn't see any hope. I was really fiercely dedicated to covenant, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. I was fiercely dedicated to covenant, and I believed that if I did the right thing, God would do what I thought was the right thing, and things would end up in the way I thought was the right way. And so, because of that, I didn't see any hope because I didn't see him changing. I knew he wasn't going to change. He wasn't ready to change. He didn't want to change. And so where did that leave me? Right? I couldn't get out because I believed that was wrong. And then it wasn't going to change. So that made life really, really hopeless. And so I spent a lot of days getting up, going to work. I'd come back home. We'd argue so bad he would leave the house. I would cry myself to sleep. I'd get up in the morning and go to work again. And that was my life for several years. And the crisis that came in between that cycle would just destroy the whole family rhythm. So you'd work hard to get into this rhythm where, I'm celebrating he didn't punch any walls today. I'm celebrating, I didn't cry myself to sleep, 5 times this week. It was 4 times this week, right? So you'd get into that rhythm, and then every so often there'd be some terrible crisis that would just destroy that whole thing. And in my house, it was, mental health crisis, and that would just break the whole rhythm. And so we'd be back down to shambles, and then, piling that back on to start that coping again. And we did that for years, 9 years plus. Toward the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, everything just kind of fell apart. Or I would say came to a head. The stuff hit the fan kind of thing. And we had the worst crisis our family had ever experienced, which was really just a ramp up of all the others. He left for another woman. And a day or two after he left, I found out where he had gone. And I found out him and the woman he was with had been plotting my murder for months, actually, by the time I found out about it. And, it's kind of those record scratch moments. If you're watching a movie and then the record scratches and everything kind of comes to a halt, you have to make a decision about everything, man. I was threatened as a wife, as a mom, as a female, as a child of God, as a woman of faith, as a coach, right? I had been coaching y'all. So I've been a coach 20 years, a life coach 20 years. And I was coaching relationships and marriage, specifically difficult marriages, because I was in one of those for like 5 or 6 years. So if you can imagine building your entire identity around one particular idea and have that be the very thing that's like falling apart at your feet, it was a really humbling moment, to say the least. Okay. And I could allow the identity, the straight identity, and we're going to talk about covenants tonight. It's really important. The identity that my ex-husband had planned for me, and quite frankly, the one I had agreed to. Okay. Tell me who I was. Tell me how I was allowed to express my faith. Tell me how I was allowed to live my life. Tell me how many days I had left on the planet, y'all. Or I could choose life. And by a divine series of events, I'm not because I'm so smart or so gifted, because God himself laid the pieces in front of me, the steps in front of me, one by one. I could not see. It's like being in a fog or a dense forest, right? You can only see about as far as your hand can be from your face. That's it. I couldn't see way past down. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get up out of there, right? And it took me a while to even get to that place. But through a divine series of events, God saved me and my children. We live free. We live safe. We live away from him. God is so good. And we are continuing to rebuild. And so the way I share the story is, I could allow that identity to tell me who I was and tell me the days of the days on the planet I had left, or I could choose life. And so coming out of that trial, I wrote a memoir in 2021 called I Choose Life: Rewrite Your Love Story and Change Your Legacy. And it's not just about an abusive marriage. It is my story, but it's not just about that. It is about how we learned to love and how we learned to be loved, and that story being rewritten, allowing ourselves to rewrite that story. If you are a survivor, or you love a survivor, or you know somebody you'd like to help, you can find this book at thereboundcoach.com/book. It is thereboundcoach.com/book. You can get one of the physical books and I will physically sign it and mail it to you, or you can get one from Amazon or an ebook. Thereboundcoach.com/book has all that information there. Okay, so today's topic. This is a really important topic, and it aligns with the story I just shared with you. So I told you at the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020 is when all of the big events happened. I got married in October of 2010. So we were coming up on 10 years. And I had just found a community of women who are very much like myself. We were God-honoring, God-fearing women who found themselves in abusive marriages and did not know what was okay with God, right? We had some thoughts, right? We had some doctrine, we had some ideas, but it conflicted with our experience and wasn't sure how to handle that. So as I learned and I watched all these women, what they did on their anniversaries, right? So they would be alone and cry with like ice cream and sad movies, or they would like go out and party, and like neither one of those sounded like a thing I wanted to do. I didn't know how to mark the occasion. And like I mentioned earlier, for a long time, for almost the whole marriage, I had imagined, one day we're going to be restored, and God's going to heal us. And we had been separated a couple years in too, when I first, not when I first discovered the cheating, when I first decided I didn't want the cheating. That's a long story, but and I don't want to get off track. But I didn't know how to mark the 10-year occasion. I knew the vision I had for such a long time, that I wanted the 10 years to be something significant. I was still legally married at that time, but he had been gone for, close to a year. So I had to make some decisions on how I was going to mark the occasion. And I did something very special that I'm going to outline to you tonight. I did a disavowal ceremony. Okay. So I had not heard of such a thing prior to me doing this. I believe it was a whisper from the Holy Spirit of something to do to change the whole cycle, to change what I had agreed to change the vows, so to speak, that I had agreed to walk in. And so let's talk about why we might stay, or why we might hold on to things or people that you've heard the phrase no longer serve you, right? No longer serve you. And I know even from faith-based women, that may sound like, oh my gosh, something's got to serve me. I'm supposed to be the one serving, right? But here's the truth, guys. The relationships we have, the communities we choose to involve ourselves in, the responsibilities we take on or don't take on, the physical items that we surround ourselves with or not, all serve us. They all serve us, even the negative ones, even the ones we complain about, even the stuff we say is painful. They all serve us. They all serve us. They're there for a reason, and we chose it. Okay? Even the abusive people serve a purpose. The question is, when do you decide this no longer serves me? I don't choose this reason anymore, right? You don't even know that reason most of the time. We walk around on autopilot and have no idea why the things around us are around us, including our habits, including our relationships, like all the things. So why do we hold on to stuff and people that no longer serve us? Here's a couple reasons. We've put in a lot of years of hard work, right? Put in a lot of years. The longer you put in, the more you're like, I'm not giving up on this thing. I put a lot of years into this, right? You want to keep a record of wrongs. What? No way, Dallas. I'm not supposed to keep a record of wrongs. There's no way. I'm not doing that. Okay, listen. If you have ever, no, shoot, it is what it is. I'm gonna just tell you like it is. If you've been cheated on, you've kept a record. Okay, and I don't mean just like in your head. I mean like you keep receipts, right? I saw your text exchange and your Facebook inbox messages, and I took a screenshot and I shared that thing, right? So I found out where my ex-husband was because, but I'm gonna tell you, Divine, it's just ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. I can't even explain it to you. You gotta buy the book, get the book, because that explains it all. Like, there's no way. And I got too much to cover tonight, so I can't tell that story. But somebody kept receipts, is what I'm gonna tell you. We keep receipts, and we want to prove internally, sometimes externally, we're clear on it, but most of the time it's an internal thing. We want to prove that that person did that thing wrong. You were wrong and I was right. You were bad and I was good. You were unfaithful and I was faithful, and I have proof, right? So we want to keep our records of wrongs, whatever it was. We made a deal. We made some kind of agreement with the thing or with the person. Okay, so in a marriage case, of course, you make a vow, you make public vows, covenants, right? Identity, or I'm trying to read my notes. Safety. So people who, like the hoarders, in extreme cases, there's a psychological thing that people have attached safety or familiarity to their clutter, their stuff. And we use the term clutter instead of like hoarding, because we all can say we clutter, but not everyone wants to say they hoard. But in emotional cases, our physical spaces are representatives of what's going on inside. So the clutter, the amount thereof, where those things sit, how long they've been around, those are outward showings of what's going on inside. Okay, so when I was married, my house was filthy all the time. Filthy all the time, and things were in gross disrepair all the time. I would clean sometimes, I would clean some things, and they'd immediately go back to filth. Things were very rarely repaired. It was awful. And I would hire, once a year, I'd hire someone to come in and help me clean, help me declutter, right? So there are professionals you can hire to help you declutter. And I would do that once a year. Every so often we'd hire a house cleaner, and they literally would come in and be like, you want me to move all this stuff? Like, it was outrageous. Because I lived with someone who had mental illness, and that showed up on the outside. And I myself was really beat down, beat up, oppressed. I just shared with you, I was suicidal. So how does a hopeless person care for their space? They don't. A hopeless person doesn't care for their space. They survive in it. They don't take any pride in their space. People who suffer with keeping up physical hygiene. If you've ever heard someone who's been very, very depressed, they struggle with hygiene. Why is that? It's an outward expression of the inward thing, right? They're struggling. There's no pride in it. There's no hope. They're just surviving, and barely, right? Okay, so finding safety in the stuff, in the people, in the familiarity, hiding in the stuff. People can hide. You can hide in anything. When you don't feel safe, or you don't feel seen, or you don't want to be seen, right? You want to keep in alignment with that identity of I'm not seen. And I talk a lot about that in other episodes, so I can't go all the way down that path. But people hide in their clothes. People hide in their schedules. People hide in their busy. People hide under responsibilities, false responsibilities, extra responsibilities, trumped up responsibilities, so they don't have to go do what makes them scared, right? they can stay safe in extra responsibilities, right? Or making them more important than they are. Perceived value. Okay. So I know for myself, I have to be careful. Not that I would be a hoarder, but I do collect things. I do. So, a lot of times I'll be like, oh man, I'm not using this, but it still has value. This thing, whatever it is, has value. Somebody else could use it. I'm going to stick it in the corner, and when I get a pile of stuff, I'm going to give it to Goodwill, and the stuff in the corner just collects, right? Or it's just the one thing, like nothing ever got added to it. I have a bag in the car right now meant for Goodwill. At least it made it to the car, right? I'm proud of that. Okay. So it's another example of hanging on to something because you think I might use it later. Somebody else could use it later. Okay. So I want to share this too. My kids are now 10 and 11. Okay. And when a toy breaks or an article of clothing that they liked has ripped, or a purse broke, they have a funeral for the thing. Okay, so we take it to the trash. This happened just the other day. They take it to the trash. They put it in the trash. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today for the funeral of this purse. It was a good purse. Talk about it. It was a good purse and served me very well. It carried all my papers and my pens and my treasures, but then it ripped. So we want to say thank you, and we're going to let you go now. And they might sing a song, shed a tear, a little fake one. And they have a funeral. They have a funeral for the thing or the toy or whatever it is, and we take it out to the trash or the recycle, and ta-da, we're done, right? But we don't have funerals for things that we're done with, right? We have funerals for people that die, but not for things that have served their purpose and are now done, right? We don't put any official ceremony on it if it ever makes it to the trash. And most of the time it doesn't. And this is the same with emotional baggage and emotional garbage and people relationships. We just kind of stop operating with them the same way we did before and keep it moving, right? The problem is the thing didn't stay there. It's still limping along with us, right? It's like on your shoulder and you're like, how come I'm so heavy? How come I can't get to the next level? How come this thing isn't working and that thing isn't working, and I follow the formula and it's not happening for me? And how come I'm looking at new situations but it still feels old? It still feels the same. Well, that person, that place, that thing never did leave you because you never put it down. I'm not going to play with this toy anymore. I'm going to play with a new toy, but the old toy is still attached. Okay. So I'm going to share with you some things. So I just told you that I needed a way to honor the 10th anniversary of my marriage that was no longer alive, right? The marriage was no longer alive. Now, if hindsight's 2020, and the truth is the marriage hadn't been alive in quite some time, but I was holding on because I wanted to believe God was going to change it. I wanted to believe I just needed to, my behavior alone was going to save this. My prayers alone was going to save this. And that I was not allowed to be released from that expectation. So I was holding on to all that, even though the thing had not just died, but was rotting. And I was steady holding on to it. So we were like a year free, or almost about a year. And I didn't know what to do. So I had a disavowal ceremony. So what does that look like? I'm going to give you some keys, but I will give you kind of the breakdown in a nutshell first. So I gathered a few friends. I found a place for my children to be for the night because they couldn't hang out for this party. And I had 3 people that were very, very close to me, or people that I trusted. Okay, so I had 3 people present in my home. I had 2 people on a Zoom who could not be present in my home, but I trusted. And I shared some very important sacred things. I wrote a letter to my soon-to-be ex-husband at the time. Not a letter I would deliver to him in any way, a letter I needed to express. So the story I wish I could sit down and say, right? Because the way things happened, there was no talking, there was no reason, there was none of that. I had to be safe. I had to go to court. I had to do some stuff, right? COVID hit, all the things. So I could not reasonably express the things I wanted to express, but I needed to do it. So I wrote it down in a letter, and I read my letter to the people in my house. And I did some confessing, and I'll break down kind of some steps in a minute, but I did some confessing, and y'all, I tore some stuff up. What stuff, you may ask? So I had a Hebrew wedding, and part of Hebrew weddings is something called a ketubah. Ketubah is a wedding contract or a wedding covenant. It's a written document that the bride and groom signs, and the officiant signs, and two witnesses sign at a Hebrew wedding. And so I had that document, which was big and blown up, and originally was in a frame. And shortly after the wedding, that thing fell off the wall and broke and never got repaired. Like, symbolism is everywhere. And it was like, slammed in a corner and behind the bed and ripped up, and I had taped it together, and I taped it back on the frame, the back of it, and I was trying to repair. Like, how symbolic can you be? This thing is torn up, and Dallas is trying to hold it together with her, duct tape. Okay, so you can't get no more symbolic than that. But I ripped it. I ripped it in front of my witnesses. There were other trinkets, the wedding dress itself. Now, I got married in a sari, and my wedding dress was beautiful. It was beautiful. And it was not cheap. And I could have said, this is too valuable. I should give it away. I should sell it. And some people do those things. Okay. What was important for me is that I put that thing to death. As beautiful as it was, and my wedding itself had fond memories in it for me. It was a beautiful ceremony with people that I care about. My father walked me down the aisle. My father cannot walk today. It's a big deal, right? Even so, what was important was not holding on to the good memories of that, was honoring what it was, honoring the good, being thankful for the good, and being honest about what that thing represented in my life and what I needed to do with it. If I gave that away or sold it, do I wish my experience on anybody? No. And does it mean that a dress guarantees a bad experience for the next person? No, that doesn't guarantee anything. But it is symbolic. So you have to decide for yourself what the things mean to you, what you want them to mean, and is it really worth repurposing? Is it really worth repurposing? Or are you willing to put the thing to death? Okay. So got rid of, and there was also, I got rid of several things. So there was a salt covenant we did in a glass vase. I broke it. There were items of his that I had brought over to the new house just out of habit and habit of being his wife and caring for the things that belonged to him that I destroyed. And a laptop that he had that had horrible, horrible messages in it. Letters to women he was trying to seduce, notations about my death, his plans for me to die, him asking God when God was going to kill me, just horrible things. Horrible things. He had called a funeral home saying, my wife is going to die. What do I do? Just all sorts of stuff. And I had brought that over because it's a laptop, right? It's a laptop. You get value out of a computer. It's a computer. No, that thing needed to die. So I smashed it with a hammer. It was fantastic. So, so I said my stuff and I smashed my things and threw things away, and I cried with my friends. And then we ate food and celebrated. And I took time to also hear them, to allow them to pour into me as I had poured out. Okay. So if you find yourself in a place where you need to break up with some stuff, okay, if you need to break up with old covenants and relationships, marriages, friends, family member dynamics that aren't good, relationships with stuff. We do have relationships with our physical things. We actually do. Okay, how we treat it, how we allow it to treat us. If we stick something in a corner, or if we shine it up and put it up on a pedestal, we have a relationship with our things. Okay, what they mean to us. So take inventory of your stuff, the stuff that's around you. And there's still, so even though I had that extremely meaningful ceremony in 2020, okay, so October of 2020, that doesn't mean I still don't have stuff to get rid of. I still have stuff to get rid of, and that doesn't mean I got rid of every single thing that was meaningful to the wedding or the marriage. Those were the things I got rid of at the time. There's other things to get rid of later. There's things to get rid of now. Things that I had picked up in that short time thereafter, where things were just hairy and I just didn't, I needed to keep records of all the things, and I kept records of all the things. But it's been 3 years now. I don't need that anymore. So even now there's some things I need to purge. And then later there's some things I'll need to purge later. And it's okay. What you are, and I would encourage you to do this. Whatever is on your mind and heart to get rid of now, and give yourself a stretch goal. So like the ketubah was the hardest for me. It was the hardest for me because I had a lot of pride in that. It was, number one, it was beautiful to look at. Number two, it had high significance in my life. It was the physical representation of the covenant that I cared so much about. And, it hurt me. It hurt me to destroy it. It hurt me. But it was important. It was important to say that is done. This is done. And I disavowed from, authority and headship that, he had over myself and my children. And I disavowed from my agreements with certain things, with my identity in certain places. And so I'm going to give you some steps. Okay. So if you're taking notes, this is the thing to take notes on. I'm going to give you some steps. Not in any particular order, but it's a decent order. Okay. So number one, go gather your stuff. Now, this might be, if you saw one of the Tyler Perry movies had this example, and I don't remember which one, but one that had where Kimberly Elise was the actress, and she had a dress that she was abused in as a child that had a stain, and she had kept that dress, and she brought the dress to the altar in a church service to get rid of this stuff. So I don't know if you guys know that movie, but that's an example. But gather your things. So I had gone through the house and I'd collected, okay, the wedding dress has got to go, the ketubah's got to go, that laptop with the evil stuff on it, the salt covenant thing, a couple of his mugs and stuff that just was his stuff that I had brought over to the new safe house. He didn't have any claim here. He didn't have any space here, right? So my master bedroom has 2 closets. No, none of them are for him, right? So that's important. All of those things are important. So I gather all your stuff. That's step 1. Step 2, gather your support team. I didn't do this alone. Just like you get married with witnesses, you disavow with witnesses. Even if your witness is your camera, I was on Zoom, so I had a couple people who couldn't be close to me, if that's your situation. And I had a couple people that were close in the room with me. It's hard. This is not easy stuff, and it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for the weak. So I don't recommend you do this alone. Gather a couple people. Tell your truth. Tell your truth. Tell your story. Like I said, I shared the story I wish I could sit down and say to him. I sat down and said to my witnesses, and also own your part. I owned my part of the mess. I repented for the things I did wrong in the marriage. And I showed gratefulness. I don't know if that's next. Yes, gratefulness for the good. Okay. So I listed, here's the things I appreciate about you. Speaking to my ex-husband. These are the things I appreciate about you. These are the things I respect about you. These are the things I honor about you. I honor this. I honor the good that happened in the marriage. Here are some examples of the good. This, and this, and this, and this. These were good things. I honor the 9 years plus I spent in the good things, right? So things I loved, things I respected. So that's number 4, gratefulness for the good. Number 5, what agreements are you letting go of? Okay, so I shared a little bit of that with you. I disavow from these pieces of my identity. I disavow from these particular beliefs, right? Definitely forgive. You want to forgive whomever is involved. Okay, so this is not just for marriages. I'm telling this particular story, but it's not just for marriages. If you're disavowing from, a particular family dynamic, okay, you're going to mention the family member or members involved, right? So I forgive these people. I also repent of my part. Okay, whatever your part is. And I promise you have a part. I know that there are victim advocates that swear victims have no parts in whatever dynamic is hurting them. I don't believe that. I don't believe that, because if we did not have a part, that means we don't have any power to make changes. And we do. We do. So we have a part, and it's important to own it so you can change it. Whenever the next time comes around, there's always a next time, right? So even if all you can see is, all right, I allowed this to happen for too long, right? I allowed it to happen for too long. When he didn't have a job and I knew he had horrible employment history. I knew that it wasn't likely he would be able to provide as a husband. And I told myself that I would be okay with that situation. And I told him I'd be okay with it. And then I got married and was not okay with it at all. Okay. So I lied. I lied to him. I lied to myself. That's not fair. It's not fair. I griped about him not providing for 9+ years. It's not fair. It's false advertisement. Okay. So I owned that. I allowed it. I found out about his first adultery, his first what's that? Emotional adultery, like 15 days after the wedding. Like it wasn't long, 10 days or something, like 2 weeks, something like that. And of course, right? What do you do? You look at, okay, I just invested all this money in this wedding. Okay, my entire community just saw me get married to this person. I really believe in marriage. It's too new. Can't give up now, right? All of that. Okay, so the fallout from that decision is he knew I found out. He knew I just rolled over and let it happen, right? I didn't stop. I didn't make any ultimatums at that point. So what does that tell him? That this behavior is okay. And then he just continued the behavior. It got worse and worse and worse. Okay, so owning your part, forgiving the people involved, repenting for your part. Number 6, destroy your items. Okay, so for me, I had a hammer. It was great. I didn't burn the dress, but I put it in the trash. And so I put all of my trash items in a trash bag, and it was important that we took the trash outside. So the stuff I destroyed inside, and then it was Tabernacles time, so we had a tent, a sukkah in the back of the house, and I had a table and a hammer, and we all went outside. I took my phone with the little flashlight outside. I took a hammer and I smashed the stuff that needed to be smashed outside. We put all of that in the trash bag. We did not take the trash bag back inside the house. That's important. Once it's gone, it does not come back. And we put that stuff in the trash, in the little trash. I'm pointing this way because that's where my trash bins go, out there. So that was important. Now, if you have paper items, I have done this. Like I said, I did this with this vowel ceremony, but you can do this with anything, guys. You can do it with anything. And I have done this with other pieces of paper where I've written down things, okay, that I'm getting rid of or I'm disavowing from. And at the end of that, I'm burning something. It's easy. You can do this, okay? You can totally do this. You just get yourself a glass bowl or a metal bowl. I would go over to my sink, rip up whatever paper I'm destroying, set fire to it. Get yourself a little lighter. Make sure you're at the sink, so if anything happens, you can douse it out. Okay, nothing gets out of control. But destroy it. Destroy it, destroy it, destroy it, destroy it. I also did some special prayers and blessings and prayers that God would record. He's always recording. Okay, heaven is always recording everything. But I asked for a specific recording in the courts of heaven because when we make vows, they are recorded. And I wanted the disavowal to also be recorded. So number 6 is destroy your stuff. And number 7 is to make a new vow. So like I said, I had made this vow and I had a physical document called a ketubah that showed the vow that I made when I got married. So not only did I destroy that, but I made a new covenant with myself. I called it a self-love ketubah. And I won't go through all the things as we're at time, but I wrote covenants with myself. Okay, what did I vow to myself? I vow to be good to you. I vow to not let abuse happen anymore. And several other things. So I made a new covenant with myself, and I had the witnesses in the room with me sign their name. And I posted up that covenant that I made with myself. I still have it posted up in my room. And it's a reminder of that night. It's a reminder of my decision to start again. It's a reminder of my decision to be made new and to choose life. So quick review. 6 steps to your disavowal to healthy breakups. Go get your stuff that you're getting rid of. Gather your support team. Tell your truth. Own your part. Number 4, show gratefulness for the good, the bad, what you love, what you respected about that situation or that relationship. Number 5, what agreements are you letting go of? Disavow from the identity and beliefs. Make sure you're forgiving. Make sure you're repenting. Number 6, destroy the items in question with some cheers and some tears. And number 7, your own self-covenant or your self-agreement. And I'll give one last note about the word covenant. So as a person who grew up in the church, they teach you contract and covenant are different. This is the teaching, right? Contract is the worldly system, and it is, I do this if you do that, right? But God's system is covenant, and covenant means everybody's in it. Even if one person doesn't do their part, the other person has to do their part. Okay, because God keeps his covenant in even though we sin, right? That's the message. And I took that full hook, line, and sinker. Okay, like all the way. But that's not complete. And it's not even true, honestly. It's not complete and it's not true. So here's what I did. I did my own research, and for those of you who are proof driven and logic driven, I highly encourage you to do your own research. Do not take my word for it. I'm going to share this little bit with you, but do your own research. You must be grounded. You must be grounded for yourself. Because you can do these steps, and if you don't believe them, they won't have the effect. So you have to do your own thing and be grounded right where you are. So I'm just going to share this and then we'll wrap up. Okay. What I learned in my study is there's at least 2 kinds of covenants, okay, that we find in the Bible. Number 1, a unilateral covenant is between God and man, where only one party has to do all the work and the other one does not. In cases where God promised he's not going to destroy the earth with water. He said he's going to do it with fire next time. But at least he said he wasn't going to do it with water anymore. And he gave us the rainbow, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to flood the earth anymore. I promise. No matter what you do, I'm not going to flood the earth anymore, because God made that promise, right? Regardless of what people do, he made the promise. Unilateral, okay? Number 2, a bilateral covenant is between two agreeing parties where both parties are agreeing to terms of the covenant, and if one party breaks those terms, the other party is not bound to their part either. There are biblical examples of that. We do not have time to get into that today, but I will share just a couple of spaces. If you are wanting to go search the scripture, you can look into Deuteronomy 17, 2-7. That's an example of a biblical covenant. Deuteronomy 22, and then John chapter 8, verses 2-11. Those are just some examples to help you start your path. Okay. If you're like, Dallas, you gave an instruction to find a tribe, to find trusted people. I don't have any of those. Could you help me? If indeed, and I knew this then, I knew when I did mine that I would eventually lead others in this path. So if you are looking for someone to facilitate a disavowal ceremony for you in front of your trusted people for your situation, reach out. I am officially offering that to those who would like it. You can contact me at thereboundcoach.com. Of course, on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, of course, you can reach out to me there. Instagram, also at Dallas Cohen or at the Rebound Coach. And I will facilitate that for you if that's something that you are interested in doing. All right. So I really hope that you got value out of this today. If you were hanging out over on Clubhouse, we will be chopping it up in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for watching this. If you are watching the replay, please share in the comments what stood out to you, what resonated with you, what pieces of this will you be taking action on. Thanks so much again for hanging out with me. Until next time, choose life.